Few games are as important to a series as Sonic Frontiers was. It had sort of the same mission Unleashed had in relation to 06, but with Forces. That is, of course, to deliver a game beyond expectations compared to the previous entry that was universally panned. And as we know now, it succeeded, despite what random users on Twitter might tell you. But today we're not going to discuss how good the game is. Today we're gonna be looking at the cut and unused content from the final game, which comes in considerable number. This is the first of 3 parts where we'll dive into Sonic Frontiers' development process, meaning the second video will focus on betas, prototypes, trailers, concept art and other early media where the game appears, comparing them to the final game and such, and then the last video focuses on the development story and other obscure trivia and Easter eggs you might have not known about. Also, as a disclaimer, I have to say that this is probably one of, if not the hardest video I've ever made. You'd be surprised at how much fake information regarding cut content about this game there is on the internet, from people just digging in the files and showing a random texture file and saying that it's 100% unused because they don't remember seeing it, and others just making jokes on social media saying that a random thing goes unused. Those aren't really fooling anyone, but you get what I mean. Even the websites dedicated to this suffer from that problem, so while I'm fairly certain of what I'm gonna be covering is at least unused for the most part, it's not as accurate as I want, so any misinformation will be corrected in a pinned comment. I'll also mention when I'm not certain if something is unused or not. As always, a huge thanks to all modders, researchers, data miners and contributors of the Sonic Wiki, Sonic Retro, the Cutting Room Floor and Hidden Palace for collecting and documenting a lot of the information shown. I also want to thank the people at the Hedgehog Engine modding server, the ones that don't spread fake information, for some other info that isn't readily available online. So let's take a look at the cut content. Considering the dimension of the game and the sheer number of ideas conceived for it, it's expectable that a lot of content was, well, cut and unused. Let's look at textures first. There's an unused save file icon that shows a picture of Earth seen from space. Similarly, there's another icon for a stage that simply shows the cyberspace skybox, which is unused as well. Here is a font texture for some sort of debug editor. A texture called Ancient Font is also left over, and seems to contain symbols for some kind of language spoken by the ancients. In the same archive, early versions of the vault keys can be seen. These are weird in the sense that the emerald symbol has different colors for the 4 islands you can get them at. In the final game there's an emerald shaped hole there too, however the colors are different between there and the unused texture. Since Kronos and Uranus use cyan, Ares uses yellow and Chaos uses red, but the texture has white, green, brown and red. The shape of the key itself is ever so slightly different too. This unused skill icon is for Tails in Final Horizon, specifically a cut homing attack move he'd be able to unlock. In the archive for the fishing shop, a texture containing a rod drilling a fish and a log can be seen and was left unused. Update 2, which added the new Coco variants, has a texture file in its archives that shows placeholder text for the Tower Cocos. Dummy textures can also be found left over in the files, including some for what appears to be a debug menu of sorts too. There's an unused umbrella icon, which was supposedly gonna be used to identify challenges that can only be done when it rains, much like how the night challenges have a sign with a moon and a star. Of course, no challenge in the final game is available only when it rains. In the map menu, there would be some sort of tracker for the action chain challenges. It's unclear whether this would track the one you were doing at the time, or if there would be some sort of marker in the island where a challenge like that was located, which would then show you the score in that specific mission. Regardless, it's unused in the final game. Finally, for textures, there are quite a few ones left over from Sonic Forces. These mainly include splash screens, the background textures for the title screen, and some UI elements. There's also this texture with a red square, speech bubble and other things, which is probably another thing from Forces. While these are not exactly textures, the game has other leftovers from that game. Firstly, the baked lighting system used for the indoor areas of the islands and the Master Trial Arena uses the same system seen in that game, which in turn is based on the one developed for Unleashed and used for the games following that. While Frontiers doesn't really have a brake function, since Sonic immediately stops when you let go of the stick, with default deceleration settings at least, there are parameters for it unused in the files which contain very similar numbers to the ones used in Forces. Also, on the cutting room floor in the Sonic Wiki, there's an entry for some supposedly tech team remnants being in the game, with code for it being present or whatever. I'll just say that this is unconfirmed and there's no proof of it. Now let's take a look at some unused layouts. Firstly, the icon used for Cyberspace 4.1 in arcade mode depicts an early version of the stage. The bridge on the right was replaced by balloons in the final. On November 25th, 2023, a conference was held at the Kyushu Sankyo University by Sonic Team about how they created the open zones and such. There, a scale map, which controls which parts of the map have foliage, of an unknown fourth island was revealed. It's speculated that this may also be an early version of Chaos Island, considering a lot of the same sort of terrain is seen. Speaking of which, let's get into the meat and potatoes of Sonic Frontiers' cut content, the unused open zone layouts. Kronos, Rhea and Oranos Islands were all originally the same zone. I think I've covered this in like 3 different videos at this point, but this was officially seen for the last time on the announcement trailer on December 2021, where supposedly only Kronos is shown, but parts of Rhea and Oranos can also be seen. It's thus deductible that the decision to split the islands was made fairly late into the development process, and was apparently done because playtesters thought the island was too big and boring, as proven by a tweet by the game's director Morio Kishimoto. In the final game, Kronos and Rhea are still the same landmass and load the same terrain file, but are blocked by an invisible wall. However, Oranos was fully separated. Another proof of this is that Eggman refers to the Starfall Islands as 3 instead of 5 in one of his memos. There's a bunch of other proof, which I'll show now if that wasn't enough. The minimap used for Kronos and Rhea is the same but cropped differently. The old terrain can be seen on the water of both Kronos, Rhea and Oranos, as the water is brighter where land was meant to be. The Switch and PS4 versions have a leftover height map of Kronos pre-split, where you can see the absolute size of the thing. The PS4 also has an unused wind map for Kronos, which is for an even earlier version of it, with a small island that was completely removed. The same goes for both Ares and Chaos Islands. A bird's eye view of Ares will also produce the same effect on the water of the missing terrain, showing what seems to be a considerable portion of the island being cut. And Chaos has an early wind map in the PS4 version, having connections to the outskirt islands. There are also early scripts for Kronos that show Tails was planned to appear there and not Amy. The PS4 and Switch versions also have leftover scripts for World Zero, which are most likely test stages. Still on early Kronos, let's take a look at the 2 unused object layouts for it, W1R01 and W1R02, considering the used one is W1R03. A big shout out to Death for his 2 videos covering them in great detail, so I'll be basing my coverage on his findings, although all footage will be mine, I think. I also recommend checking out his mods and other work he has done. W1R01 is assumed to be the earliest version of the map we have access to. It follows the same naming scheme of the other 2 islands, being W2R01 and W3R01. It's generally much emptier, missing a ton of objects, a difference that I won't really cover. There are also no guardians around, mostly, and the terrain's collision seems a bit iffy, as Sonic tends to get stuck sometimes. Here, Kronos, Rhea and Oranos Islands are all connected, and as to accommodate to that, the terrain is hugely different in the areas where they do, especially where Rhea and Oranos join together. Take the area where the route up to the pyramid is in Oranos. If you look back, in the final there's only sea to be seen, while in the early layout you can see a lot of Rhea's landscape. Despite all islands being the same landmass, I'll separate this coverage into the areas that would eventually become the finals Kronos, Rhea and Oranos. The first button puzzle is missing, the enemies before the ninja boss are in different locations, the gate doesn't open automatically since the layout has no scripts, and almost everything that relies on them doesn't work. The gate after has a button instead of the rotating stone puzzle. Pressing the button does nothing as mentioned. The entrance to the rest of the island has a gate in the early layout which was removed in the final. Completing the Psyloop puzzle is mandatory to progress, while in the final it just gives you the blue seed. The first enemies you encounter after it are the same, except there are 2 of them which are the variant that will protect themselves if you use the homing attack. In the final, a hint comes up telling you to try the Psyloop because some enemies use shields to protect themselves, but none of the ones in this group are that variant. After inserting the first gear into the 1-2 portal, you won't fight with Tower because of the missing scripts. Similarly, the cutscene that spawns him and the dialogue before that also won't trigger. This too means that you can't unlock the bridge unless you forcibly spawn Tower and defeat it. Speaking of the 1-2 portal, it would lead to a cyberspace level with the ID W9D01, which was scrapped. Considering it was part of World 9, it was an eternal highway level, meaning its levels actually start by W9D02, which is cyberspace for 2. If you're wondering, it's the only cyberspace area which has a missing entry, so it's the only removed cyberspace level we know of. The invisible invisible wall that separates Kronos and Rhea doesn't extend past the actual land terrain, meaning you can launch yourself off of Kronos flying above the water next to the cliff and then safely land in Rhea Island. As for Rhea, the 4-6 cyberspace portal is actually located in that island instead of in Uranus like in the final game. In its place, the 6th movement song for Chaos Island can be collected instead. You can also find a broken Spider Guardian, which is the only one seen in the entire layout, not counting Ninja and Tower in the tutorial. The reason as to why it is broken is very simple. Once you get into the second phase, it'll just keep launching you upwards with no possible escape. Multiple Tails objects are placed, but you can't really interact with them. Some of them are invisible due to missing scripts, even appearing in Kronos, where he doesn't appear in the final game as mentioned previously. Since all islands are still treated by this layout as the same, the cyan and blue Chaos Emeralds are present in Rhea instead. Near the water ruins, there's a circle of 8 small pillars surrounding what seems to be nothing. If you ever thought this was weird, well, it's because it is, as in the early layout there would be a portal to a fishing spot in the center. Near the same area, the terrain was completely changed to add one of Rhea's towers. In the old terrain there would be a portal for Cyberspace 4-1. On the hill north of the water ruins is where the Elder Coco would be located. Of course, Kronos and Uranus have their own unique locations in the final, and Rhea has none. Weirdly, on the left you can see some weird rock pillars and the blue Chaos Emerald Vault. Well, upon further inspection, this terrain is actually shared with Uranus even if the topology is different, and Uranus does have the rock pillars and the vault. Its Elder Coco is also located here, only a bit farther north. Speaking of which, as for Uranus, the area that houses the 4-9 portal in the final is actually one of the fishing spots in the early layouts. Similarly, the area with the 4-8 portal in the final had the 4-3 portal instead. The yellow Chaos Emerald Vault is located in a different place in Uranus, and acts as the one for Kronos. While not exactly in the same place, the 4-6 cyberspace portal was added nearby. Instead of the 4-7 cyberspace portal in the final, there was 4-2 instead. The 4-9 portal in the early layout was replaced by 4-3, the red emerald in Uranus has a different location and acts as the one for Kronos. There's also a ruined structure on the lake at the right, which was removed since a rail passes through there in the final. Similarly, the portal that has Cyberspace 4-8 in the early layout was replaced with a yellow Emerald Vault. While they aren't exactly in the same place, they are literally right next to each other. This is actually the same portal where Eggman gets sucked into cyberspace in the intro, which is a very clear remnant of this early massive Kronos island. I guess it kinda makes this layout not really completely unused, but yeah. The Hermit Coco has a completely different positioning between the layouts. Where it stands in the early one, the Final Horizon Ring portal was eventually added. The portal with Cyberspace 4-1 in the final housed 4-7 instead. The Finals 4-4 portal was instead 4-5. Inversely, the Final 4-5 portal was 4-4 in the early layouts. While the green Chaos Emerald Vault is in the same location, you can pick it up twice since it's duplicated in the object data. Much like how in Kronos there's Supreme instead of Giganto, here the opposite happens, you fight Giganto instead of Supreme. Now let's take a look at W1R02. It appears to be much closer to the final game, with mostly the same objects for the ones that are present, but a considerable amount is still missing, which I won't really cover as well. However, the islands are still connected as one. The coverage format will be the same. So, starting with Kronos, there are a bunch of different puzzles, so I'll just cover them in quick succession. The M004 tile puzzle has a different layout. The rock structure next to it also has broken terrain climbing it. The spring creator next to the 1-7 portal is different, and hitting it doesn't even create a spring. The M025 puzzle is a quick step challenge in the final game, however in the early layout a side loop puzzle is present. The M016 tile puzzle has a different layout, and was also called M004, so it seems that this layout simply uses the same ID for the puzzles of the same type. The M017 puzzle was a timed side loop puzzle instead, and the M019 puzzle was also different. Next to the Hermit Coco, a Kern is present in both early and final layouts, however the large rock that serves as its base is missing from the former, making it float. The early layout has objects inside the waterfall that would let you climb to the top. The rock platforms that would contain said objects are still present in the final, as are the rock stairs on the ground that would contain the first spring to launch you upwards. Of course, in the final game you can't go on top of the waterfall from Kronos because of the invisible wall. As for Rhea, the only real differences are that there are a couple of rail generator puzzles that don't exist in the final. Specifically, at the top of the waterfall, off the shore next to the small island that is normally inaccessible without a spin dash, on the moving platform in the same area, the two platforms themselves are missing in the final two, and on the northeast eastern part of the lake ruins. There's also a ramp with jump panels at the end that sends you back into Kronos Island. The terrain is and looks pretty buggy here. And as for Oranos, in the final layout there's a 2D puzzle in the swamp area of the island. This puzzle is sort of present in the early one too, however it's very incomplete and uses the normal spring model instead of the classic variant. The object layout for the pyramid climb is practically completely different. There's almost no comparison to be made, just take a look at how they are in their entirety. Off the shore next to the smaller island, there's a bunch of floating geometry. These are the same Eggman build structures seen in Kronos, but why they're just floating here is anyone's guess. And the M079 puzzle next to the spawn was a rail generator instead. If you want to explore the terrain yourself, you can download the beta Kronos Island map restored mod by Sonic Series Fan, which, as it suggests, restores that version of the island while also fixing a bunch of broken stuff. Alternatively, you can download the Kronos Reimagined mod also made by Sonic Series Fan, which not only restores the old Kronos, but makes changes to the story and cutscenes so that it fits correctly, and a lot of other things, so definitely check them out if you're interested. Well, we're not done with Unused Layouts yet, as we still have the early Oranos layout from the final Horizon update. Well, from the update before it actually. Update 2 seems to have accidentally included the W1R06 layout, except an earlier version of what would eventually be seen in Update 3. It doesn't have nearly as many interesting things as Beta Kronos, mostly just different object and enemy placement, very few puzzles, and there are a lot more guardians around. There was a leaked screenshot back then that showed the Sumo Guardian in an area where Caterpillar is found in the final. This difference can be seen in this early layout. Finally, for Unused Layouts, the W1R02 layout I covered, the less incomplete one from the unsplit Kronos, has different lighting and weather files from the ones in the final game. While saying which one is better isn't really that linear of a conclusion to make, you can look at some comparisons and take your own conclusions. The beta version has more dense vegetation in some areas, but the trees are a lot less detailed and lower in quality. The flower fields have noticeably more flowers than the final version, which opts for 2D textures on the grass to make it seem like it's denser, and the water reflections are a lot more noticeable, and its depth and surfaces seem to have a stronger effect on its coloring. What is also very noticeable is the difference in color correction. The final version seems to add a blue tint over everything, which is even more noticeable in Kronos as the grass actually looks bluer than it does green at times, while in the beta lighting it was really green. The weather also looks different as a result, especially the rain, which seems a lot stronger and is definitely more detailed. If you want to play with the leftover beta lighting, you can download the restored beta lighting mod by Zesty Blue. Now, time for some unused events and audio. The Switch version of the game contains a considerable amount of unused cutscenes, including early versions of used cutscenes, unused QuickTime events, and others that were simply removed. Believe it if you want, but a file called GI3220.usm literally contains a video file of a very early version of the pinball table cutscenes. While they are mostly identical in terms of camera angles and what actually happens, the timings are sometimes very different, there are basically no textures, the lighting is very bare bones, the effects even more so, and all animations are unpolished. Test_BO2115 is an early version of Wyvern creating the red path. The path itself doesn't really move, and the other red things attached to its mouth clip into its body. Test_Sonic_walk is literally that, a cutscene with Sonic walking and making different face expressions. The Chaos Emeralds are also seen, following him as he walks and then shooting off at the end. Test_QE1080_result is an early version of Sonic's dance when he gets a Chaos Emerald. It's identical to the final, but it just never plays at this specific location. Test_QE2130_result is identical to the previous one, but Sonic doesn't pull out the Chaos Emerald. QE1310 is a removed cutscene where Tails gives Sonic a Chaos Emerald, something that never happens in the game. test_cut_timing_sync_cam_sn simply depicts Sonic in a T-pose with the camera panning seemingly at random. Test_EV3060 is an early version of the flashback cutscene in Chaos Island. All animations are really rough and unfinished. Test_QTE_sample is a test for the QuickTime events in the boss fights. Here you just press the A button to perform the parry animation. Test_Sage_move features Sage turning around from different angles and distances. She has her base red color scheme but with a blue eye for whatever reason. Test_SN_exposure is very much resemblant of the cut timing event I showed. Sonic is T-posing in a void with the camera rotating around him. The file name suggests it would have most likely been used to test different exposure values for the camera, but the exposure itself seems to stay the same all throughout. Inside the archive that contains Wyvern's files, an unused event called BO2020 can be found. It depicts a caterpillar revving up and slamming into another one, knocking it over. A lot of unused animations for it can be seen here, specifically that revving up animation, spinning and being flipped over with its legs twitching, but we'll take a look at more of those later. Knight's face transition cutscene actually cuts off early in the final game, as a few more seconds were meant to be seen. Specifically, you can see it jumping off of the arena. This section is most likely a remnant of a cut plan for this boss, where Knight would follow you around the island. There's a leftover chase battle path for it in the files, but nothing much besides it. An earlier version of EV1700, the one in Final Horizon where Amy starts to get corrupted, could be found in the files for update 2. None of the Coco flashbacks appear, and the animation is very stiff and incomplete. Much like any other Sonic game, there are a bunch of unused audio clips left over in the files. Well, unused isn't really the correct term, since most of them do go used, however you have to stay idle for 10 minutes before you even get a chance to hear any of them. Nevertheless, some of them really are unused, but I'll cover the ones that are the most interesting, used or otherwise. An early version of the action chain theme can be found in the jukebox files. The melody is the same, but the early version is missing a few instruments. There are a few unused voice lines for Big. Mainly, they're related to teaching the mechanics of the fishing minigame. It also teaches you about the unused green ripple, where you'd have to hold the real button while the white ripple overlapped it. There's also a line where he tells you how much fishing costs.
What do you wanna do, Sonic? Nice choice. Sorry, but I need more tokens than that. Yes, you're doing great! I can't believe you got it on your first try! Good job! Now, do you see that green ripple? Keep reeling while the white ripple is overlapping it. You'll need 1 coin to go fishing. What's your pleasure?
Unused voice clips for Sage reveal her talking about the Ancient's world ship, something that was cut from the final game.
Perhaps now you'll give up and just stay with me? I'm still working on this. Return later. It is what remains of the Ancient's world ship. It was their ark to this world. Sonic, can you hear me? I have found a new route. Join me. Sonic, I believe I can access the ship's ruins. Join me.
It can be assumed that maybe the ships you see in Rhea Island's flashbacks are related to this in some way. However, it seems that the world ship was just a single massive one. The scale map for the cut 4th island I already covered has a weird dotted section. Maybe there would be a giant floating ship there, which would be what prompts Sage to say that line. However, as you can imagine, there are a billion ways to interpret a black and white map with no other context. The only other thing that may relate to this world ship is the cut W4R01 entry in the game's files, but it simply has nothing. Sonic has a lot of dialogue that both goes unused and used, but as mentioned, can almost never be heard. I'll just cover the most interesting ones. There are a lot of lines related to the Cocos, both just referencing them, collecting them, and meeting up with the Elder and Hermit Cocos.
There you are! Gotcha! This way, little guys! Found ya! You're safe now! Come with me! Let's join your friends! Come along now! What were you doing there? What's up, little guys? Whoa, that one's way different. Huh, that one looks different than the others. What are you hiding in there for? Let's get you back to the Elder. Hey there, little guy. Man, you guys are all over the place. Follow me, okay? Well, at least you're not hiding inside any pipes. Found you. Peekaboo. Right this way. Whoa, that's a big cocoa. Now, that's a different looking cocoa. What are you doing over here? More cocoa for the cocoa pile. Hermit and Elder are worried about you. Come here, you. Hold up. How did Elder Coco beat me here? No way. How'd Hermit Coco get out here? Come on, little guys. Hustle. You guys are all over the place, aren't you? Hey, found some more. Elder Coco? Are you trembling? Hey, Elder. I'll be quick. That's the Hermit Coco. We've met. Hermit Coco? What's wrong?
Here is a set of lines for Rhea Island when Sonic is losing his goddamn mind. I don't really know if they are used or not, but I didn't know about them, so here you go.
Towers. All that's left. Next target. Let's go. Hard to focus. Gotta keep going. No, I'm moving. Can't feel it. Almost finished. Just this one left. My friends have waited long enough. You're almost free, guys. Visions. So vivid. Like I'm reliving, not just watching. This is real, right? I'm still here, aren't I? This is for my friends. This is for my friends, remember? I'm so cold now. Numb. Push through it. Endure. Objective complete. My name is...
This video showcases what are two unused sounds, one for locking on and another for a 0 rings warning. And here is some unused dialogue for Chaos Island's intro cutscene. Considering how it fits with the other ones, it's weird that it goes unused. Now let's take a look at some unused animations. Sonic has a ton of supposedly unused combat animations. They aren't located inside Sonic's archive, so it's speculated that they are part of some sort of older combat system. Most of these are very similar to other used ones for the Phantom Rush ability, so it's possible that some may actually be used. There's a multi-stomp attack animation. If you've played Sonic Unleashed, you can probably tell that it's directly inspired on one of the Werehog's combo finishers. The animation is called Stomp_Cons. Combo_Tornado is a tornado kick attack that looks similar to the Cyclone kick. Combo_Uppercut is exactly that, an uppercut animation. Sonic spins in midair similar to how Knuckles does when performing the same move in Sonic Adventure 2. Combo_Quickstep A1_Finish sees Sonic charging a kick and hitting from a distance, being a combo finisher. Combo_Sliding A1_Finish is another combo finisher, where Sonic hits downwards with both arms. Combo_Dropkick is also self-explanatory, as Sonic performs a dropkick. It looks extremely similar to the Phantom Rush combo finisher. Combo_Psyloop A1_Attack sees Sonic perform a quick Psyloop attack, looking similar to how it does in the final game, except the latter uses a different animation instead of reusing the air boost. And Combo_Avoid A1_Finish is an unused combo finisher, where Sonic performs a spinning punch. Enemies also have a couple of unused combat animations. The wolf specifically has a ton of them. There's a stun animation. Here it's getting into position to perform a somersault attack. Set attack goes unused, and here's the animation for it. Here it is looking around and walking. Animations called Knockback, Fall_Loop, and Blow_U_Loop were probably meant to be used in sequence when it got hit. There's also an animation for him spinning after getting hit by a drop dash, slide, or a spin dash. It can't be seen because it instantly dies if it gets hit by any of those moves. It has an animation for a melee attack similar to the ones the soldier enemy performs. However, the wolf can do it while moving. There's another claw attack for it that is similar to the previous one, except stationary this time. Here's a variant of the Attracted animation where the wolf is shaking violently. Here is an unused counterattack animation and a sequence of melee attacks. The Grabber Badnik also has a couple of unused animations. Most of them relate to a cut ability for it where it would fire projectiles at you much like the Buzzer Badnik. I guess the reason for its removal was that it wasn't really needed. There's an unused 3D variant of this Badnik where it walks along the ground. There's also another version that is meant to move along grind rails, and the only functionality that remains is that it performs an animation when walking underneath it. The Chopper has a swimming animation that is most likely a leftover of either Sonic Colors or Generations. The Caterpillar, as mentioned previously, has a couple of unused animations. Firstly, it has that rolling move I mentioned, including the charge, loop and ending animation. Here is the animation where it's upside down and twitching its legs, and another stun animation where it's the right side up. Here's a variant of the flight animation for the eagle. Similarly, a gliding animation also goes unused, where its legs clip through each other. The spider has a few unused animations too. Here's a cut attack for it, multiple animations for taking damage as you can see on screen. On the same note, there are animations for it being downed. Of these, there's also an animation called fall, which I'd guess would be used in this sequence somewhere. There's a kick move it'd be able to perform, including an animation for if you parried it. Here's a damage animation for getting hit with a grand slam, and a stunt pose. And lastly for enemies, an odd animation called bound for the wyvern, where its head simply rotates. It has the bumper tag, so maybe its head would act like a bumper and bounce you back instead of clipping through its face. Whatever it may be, your guess is good as any. There's an unused version of the Power Boost Awakening animation, where Sonic would crouch and the camera would zoom in on his face, acting more like a cut-in than a fully fledged scene. This is all rendered in-game while the final animation is pre-rendered. According to an unused string in the tutorial text, the drift was meant to be available anywhere by pressing the left trigger and moving the left stick while boosting. While this is disabled for normal Sonic, except for some specific cyberspace levels, Super Sonic can actually still perform this move and has a unique animation for it. Morio Kishimoto confirmed the reason for its removal. It was simply because they couldn't get it to perform as smoothly as they wanted to in every terrain form. Similarly, this file also mentions that if Sonic were to jump while sliding, he'd perform a back jump, and attacking out of it would do a jump kick towards the target. Continuously quick stepping in one direction would have also activated the twist jump, and attacking in that state would cause Sonic to, quote, rush while rotating to the target. Now time for some unused boss content, and there's a lot to dissect here. Firstly, there are some cut enemies. The Unused Guardians mod by Miss Bianca restores them to some degree, so you should check it out. Specifically, these are the Beetle, which is an easier version of the Caterpillar, the Ultimate Shinobi, a stronger version of the Ninja, and the Arachnid, a stronger version of the Spider. The harder variants are different from the ones added in Final Horizon, as they use what are otherwise unused behaviors for these enemies. The Beetle is a recreation of the level 1 Caterpillar that is seen in concept art. It simply fires rotating bullets at you, an attack that can also be seen in the leaked beta footage. The Ultimate Shinobi uses leftover level 5 stats for the Ninja, and attack patterns like a doppelganger attack and a backflip laser. And the Arachnid uses stronger leftover stats for the Spider and other unused attacks and behaviors. It mostly walks across a holographic spider web and attacks using lasers, with a quick side-loop attack being needed to defeat it. While not featured in the mods, there are leftover attack patterns for a level 5 version of the tower, but they are weaker than the upgraded Silver Hammer version. It's apparently called the Room 05. The promotional art book The Art of Sonic Frontiers, something we'll explore in more detail in the next video, features images of several enemies and bosses with an unused gold variant. According to Morio Kishimoto, they were originally implemented but were later removed apparently because it made the game too big for multi-platform reasons. This is, as far as I remember, the second time something has been removed from a Sonic game because it didn't fit on the disc. The first instance was Round 2 from Sonic CD. Well, at least that's one of the reasons given for it. Similarly, you can see other unused variants like a squid creating a red path and a caterpillar with a black and silver color scheme. If you want to add this to your game, check out Blue Cube's Unused Enemy Designs mod, which recreates them based on what can be seen in the concept art. Now the elephant in the room of unused boss content, Supreme's unused attacks and events. Found within its data are several of these that were cut because, according to Morio Kishimoto, they were being worked on up to the final deadline but just weren't finished in time. All these lack polish, aren't timed correctly and end abruptly. A big thanks to Hypernova for showcasing them in a really great manner. There are two unused QTEs for the rifle. The first one is similar to the used one, however Supreme fires a lot more shots. In the final, only the first and last in this unused event are used. The second one is an entirely unique sequence where it moves around the arena and fires multiple shots at different angles, then jumps to trick shot Sonic. The bullets here are also of a different color. There's a scene for Sonic using the Grand Slam move against Supreme, which is reused from Giganto's fight. This probably means there would be a unique animation for this battle. Speaking of which, in Final Horizon, Super Sonic 2 can also perform this move against Supreme and it will use the event for Giganto. The result is pretty glitchy as expected. Giganto's clap and bite counterattack was apparently ported to Supreme too, except pretty unfinished. If you let him catch you, you'll enter the part of the scene where Sonic tries to keep the mouth open. Here, Supreme enters a T-pose and Super Sonic won't die even if you fail the QTE, although you'll get a try again screen. This event and the previous Grand Slam one take place outside Oranos Island, which actually corresponds to the coordinates in Kronos Island where the Giganto fight takes place. Similarly, a modified version of Giganto's mouth laser attack is present, where Super Sonic briefly prepares to deflect it. There's no laser, of course. An animation called Beat Laser 01 would be triggered when you'd parry Supreme's spin attack while the Beat drones were active, or if it was staggered after receiving enough damage. This event shows Supreme summoning the turrets to aim at Sonic and then firing. There are actually two versions of this, as there's also Beat Laser 02. The 01 variant has Super Sonic flying straight forwards with a surprised look and trying to find a chance to escape, and was meant to play during his first encounter with the attack. The 02 variant sees him not really surprised anymore and just faces the attack head on. Supreme also has other unused attacks during normal battle, such as an alternate counter attack which has 4 different animations all recycled from Giganto, a laser attack called SPO2, although this one actually shows the laser effect. Similarly, SPO1 is also the clap and bite counter. The difference between these two and the ones I covered previously is that the former are straight ports of Giganto's animations, while the latter are slightly modified specifically for the Supreme fight. That's why they're a bit more functional. An action type called homing laser _ normal sees it firing laser projectiles out of his back, which of course follow you around. During phase 1, Supreme will remain stationary, while in phase 2 he'll float. On the same note, homing laser _ fly will make Supreme fly on a set path around the arena, and the homing projectiles move faster. And laser is pretty similar to the previous two, however the projectiles are instead shot from its mouth. While Supreme's drones are used in the final game, there are 2 actions for them that go unused. Bullet type homing spawns dark missile projectiles that follow Sonic and can't be parried, and bullet type laser would make the drones shoot a laser beam, however the visual effect isn't shown despite there being collision and Super Sonic getting staggered by it. Finally, there are a couple of other unused animations. Here's another laser attack move, which Giganto also has. This appears to be some sort of bite attack. While it's unknown how it would have been used, it was probably for if Super Sonic got too close to Supreme. And start, loop and end animations for Supreme pulling out his gun were cut. How it would have been used is unknown, and it's the only one that isn't recycled from Giganto. The Caterpillar also has a considerable number of unused attacks. Mass Laser shoots a group of lasers in a straight line. Follow Laser did go unused at first, but was restored for Final Horizon's Caterpillar. Cross Laser shoots a group of lasers in a cross pattern. Simple Rotation Bullet can actually be seen in the leaked footage and was restored for Final Horizon's Caterpillar. It makes the Guardian shoot arched plasma bullets. Speaking of restored attacks, Plane Up Down Bullet is another one of them. It's the one where it creates a plane of bullets that rain down on the area below them. Vertical Round Bullet appears to be a bullet version of a used attack called Vortex Laser, spawning a circle of laser pillars that expand in diameter. Cross Bullet shoots a barrage of bullets in a wave pattern intersecting each other. Pyramid Round Bullet shoots bullets in a pyramid pattern. This one is a bit weird. Player Fall Bullet also rains bullets from the sky like Plane Up Down Bullet, but they follow you instead. Triangle Battery Bullet seems incomplete as it doesn't fire anything, but the origin of the bullets comes in a triangle shape. However, the attack was re-implemented and finished for Final Horizon. Shotgun Bullet sends a flurry of bullets, which was also restored in Update 3. Airdrop Bullet is a variant of the previous one, shooting bullets from the Caterpillar's weak point. Chase Shot Object seems to spawn bullets from 2 points on top of the shell, but nothing appears to come out, although Sonic does get hit. Winder Bullet was another unused flurry of bullets, but was restored for Final Horizon, and Diffuse Laser shoots 3 lasers out of either side of the Caterpillar. There's an unused quote-unquote attack for Wyvern where it hits the player with its claw. It seems like it's giving you a second chance at the parry, since you don't go back to the first state of the fight after getting hit. Knight has an unused attack called Sword _triple, where it spins and attacks supersonic. The name triple probably comes from the after images it leaves behind. This is an unused layout for the spider's diving section, called W3R01_disable_spider_diving_gimmick02. It isn't very interesting, but it's there. And finally, there's an unused object called ring trap present in the boss folder. Supposedly, all bosses would have rings instead of just wyvern, and this object would allow them to steal from you somehow. Speaking of which, finally for this video, let's take a look at some unused objects, which sadly there aren't many of. There's a weight object in the files, but it doesn't really do anything. An object called trampoline is also left over. It has parameters and behaviors that work, but the model is missing. As expected, it's activated like a normal trampoline. You jump on it. There seems to be an entry for a gun truck object in the files. Considering how a lot of cyberspace levels are inspired on stage layouts from other games, maybe City Escape from either Sonic Adventure 2 or Generations would have been one of the layouts present, and as such, so would be the gun truck. The object can be placed, but nothing happens. There are strings associated with it, but besides that, there's nothing. Another interesting thing regarding this though, is that the strings contain references to object_chaser, which is the ID used for the egg chaser in other games. However, this badnik goes unused here as well. Still on the topic of cyberspace, although this isn't really an object, there's an unused gimmick for it. All it does is change the speed of the game, but how it would have been used is anyone's guess. The default value makes the game play at 2x speed. It was probably meant for one of the extra levels added in Final Horizon, but we don't know much about it besides that. And finally, Update 2 has earlier versions of the Float Island platform object added in Final Horizon. The biggest difference is that the platform is more detached compared to the final, meaning the model themselves are just pretty different. The UVs also don't really look the same. And that's about it for this video. There's a lot of cut content in this game that is simply a product of a lot of ideas being produced for it, considering Sonic Team's necessity of putting out something big and revolutionary compared to the latest games they were putting out. It's safe to say that some of them are really better going unused, but others are a bit of a shame that they had to be cut. Nevertheless, the next two videos are gonna be covering more of that, so I recommend sticking around to watch them once they come out, if they haven't already when you're watching this. As such, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications, as these videos take a lot of time to write, edit, record, research, you name it, so I'd really appreciate it. You can also support me on Patreon or YouTube memberships to get early access to videos and your name in the screen at the end. Also, follow me on Twitter if you want, and check out my community tab once in a while, where I post quite frequently with video news. And that's about it really. I'll hopefully see you soon.